And welcome everyone to another edition of the Mind Sculptors gameplay series. I am your host Callahan, and joining me in the booth, as pretty much normal, is my good friend Reed, also known as Sickrobot. Reed, how are you doing today?
Yeah, you're very well. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I guess it is pretty much just normal at this point, huh?
Yeah, no kidding. It's this weird existence that we live in right now.
Yep.
Where things aren't quite back to normal because not everybody has the vaccine, but you know, things are less crazy than they were, I feel like, 6 months ago at the very least.
I mean, the world is always equally as crazy. It's just crazy in different ways right now. So
That's true. But we do have a great episode lined up for you guys. But before we get into all that, do want to take a quick moment to thank you for joining us this week. If you do like this episode or any of the other episodes that we do, please make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below, help out the algorithm. And if you want access to our Discord server as well as some extra content, please make sure to head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/themindsculptors, or check out the link in the description. And guess what, Reed? We also have a TCG Player affiliate link now.
Wow, we're moving up in the world.
Moving up in the world. So if you want to help support the show, you can use that link that's down in the description, and that will help go back into the channel and help us out. So we greatly appreciate that. So today we've got a really interesting matchup. We've got three Sculpty boys. As usual, we've got Spleenface. He's going to be playing Thrasios Nadir. We've got Cobblepott playing the same deck he played last week with Fair Junk, as he calls it, Tymna and Kodama. We've got Fenix playing Shaper's Consult Scepter Thrasios deck with Thrasios and Tymna. And joining us, pro player from Team Hareruya, is Jacob Nagro, and he's going to be playing Najeela the Blade Blossom. And Spleen, we were kind of talking about this deck before we went on the air. And, it looks pretty similar to just stock Najeela midrange, but he's got some stuff that's a little bit different than, he's got some other spices and flavors going on in this one.
Certainly does. I mean, the big ones that we're seeing here are, I think, Street Wraith and Dismember. This is very indicative of a person who mostly plays 60-card formats, I would say. Not to say bad. Definitely Dismember, better than ever right now with Crom flying around.
Yeah, no kidding.
That being said, there's not much Crom in this table specifically, but, it's not a bad pick. And, I mean, Street Wraith is not particularly bad. I mean, you just get free cycling, get free grave fill. There's not like there's an Underworld Breach in here or anything, but, it's like, it's a free card. You play a 7 card deck instead of a 98 card deck with Gift Robes, so why not?
Yeah. One of the other things that he's doing in this list is he's also playing Toski, Bearer of Secrets, and this is something that we've talked a little bit on this channel, is the decision, because, as you know, we have both Fenix and Pongo, who are huge Najeela players, right?
Yes.
And so we always get to see these different kind of takes on Najeela. And, some like to play Tymna, some like to play Edric. Some people have talked about Toski, and he's playing Toski in this slot. What do you think about Toski in this list?
So I definitely like Toski better than Edric. I have been continually underwhelmed by Edric and Najeela decks. It's just like, it gives your opponent so many more cards if you can't, like, either you have to get Najeela down and get a couple of turns of swinging in before Edric exists as a card, or you have to, like, just hope that nobody has creatures that they can attack into anybody else with and slam it early. It's just not a fun place to be in. I actually really like playing Toski over Edric, because even with the one more CMC on it, it's, like, so much safer into high creature count pods if you already have some players sitting around.
Right, absolutely. And the last thing with this list that is a little bit different is, we were kind of talking, this is a much more of a mid-range deck than Pongo's is, because it's playing both Deafening Silence and Null Rod. It was slim 6 artifacts in this list. So, definitely trying to take on more. It's also playing Hull Breacher, which evidently Pongo's not playing. We just realized this.
Yeah. It's
we're gonna have to have a talking to.
I have words, but anyway, Deafening Silence and Collect Roof, definitely pretty nice picks. I mean, great into the current meta. Deafening Silence is sort of neat in Nagila's because you can win with Derevi as your main con, and you don't necessarily need to cast a non-creature spell, which leaves you open to hold up interaction while going for a win attempt with Deafening Silence in play, which isn't always necessarily a thing that you can do in a lot of other decks. Consult can't do that, for instance. Stuff to that effect. We also have a Finale in here, as well as a Green Sun Zenith, rather than playing stuff like Summoner's Pact, which I sort of agree with. When you're going more mid-range, you're playing Toski, you're playing a Collector Roof, you're playing a Hull Breacher, Finale makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what this list does, and really excited. I've talked a lot about how I want to get more pro players here on the channel and kind of see how they play into the CDH pod. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. We were talking beforehand. He took third at which PTQ was it, or which Grand Prix was it? Excuse me.
Couldn't tell you, but yes.
Yeah, he got third, and he was playing the Urza deck as you described it.
Definitely.
With Okos and all that jazz.
Definitely has results. We're not just bringing on random people who claim to be pros.
Right.
We have real bonafide pros on this channel.
Absolutely. Well, he might not be a pro, but he's certainly a legend in our community. Is Cobblepott. He's playing, as we said, and we've seen it, is Timna Kodama. And we were talking about this before, and I hadn't made this connection until you brought it up. But I was like, this deck really reminds me of a different take. It seems really reminiscent of Anafenza stacks. And you go, well, Callahan, it's just Boonweaver, and that's what Cobble made. And I go, oh, okay, that makes more sense now. Yeah, so we're seeing
the deck that Cobble is historically known for, almost going on a decade old at this point. The progenitor of pretty much every modern Abzan stacks Hate Bears list.
Right. So this is a bona fide classic Cobblepott list.
Oh, hugely, just absolute classic. There's an Academy Rector in here, even if there's no Boonweaver. There's a bunch of Hate Bears, and there's a bunch of Creature Tutors. That's about what you're looking at.
Yeah, and this is, for those who are unfamiliar, we saw this list last week. This is the Deafening Silence, the Rule of Law. He calls it fair junk. Is how he describes it. He's playing Living Plane, which I think is really, I think it's hilarious because I know the line that he always tries to take when he does a Living Plane.
Yeah, it's classic.
He tries to Living Plane with an ELESH NORN out. And
hey, don't discount Living Plane Linvala, which is much more achievable.
That's
and
also true.
The same thing.
That's true. So, he's playing that list. So what are some things for people who are unfamiliar with this list that they might want to be keeping an eye out for?
I mean, definitely be aware that you can just die to RAZAKETH sometimes. It just tends to happen to people. Most of the rule of laws in this list are actually creatures. So you might think that it's he can't win with a reanimate or just hard casting RAZAKETH or whatever. He needs other spells to cast. Not true. You can both sack your Rule of Law effect and tutor with a single RAZAKETH activation and usually get there anyway. So try not to lose to that. We've also got some great other reanimation targets here. Obviously, Archon of Valor's Rouge, Cobblepott Classic at this point, ELESH NORN, potentially stuff like Linvala, not bad targets in some cases. And then, we just honestly got a bunch of other good stuff junk. Maybe some spice here is Varragoth Blood Sky Sire and Weathered Wayfarer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what to say about those because they're definitely card choices and they're definitely they exist and they do the thing that's printed on the card.
So one thing you'll notice is he's playing Orin Frostfang, which is kind of the older brother, so you might say, of Toski. And in this list, with the decision to go over Ornn Frostfang over Toski, what would you kind of chalk that up to?
I mean, being able to give your dorks death touch when they swing in is a lot better than not giving them death touch. So,
that's fair.
You know?
That's very fair.
Yeah, just that.
Absolutely. Well, we saw this list win last week, and he did beat out Fenix in a one-on-one at the end of the matchup last week. Fenix this week, however, is going to be playing probably, I would kind of call this like the prototypical, like the CEDH deck, right? Like it's the classic.
I mean, at this point,
yeah, at this point, he's playing Thrasios Tymna, and he's playing Shaper's Consult Scepter list. And this is classic mid-range CEDH 4-color good stuff.
Play all the good cards, play all the good win cons, get there.
Basically.
Both your commanders are value engines. The entire deck is good cards, except for a couple of bad cards, which are combo pieces.
Right.
I mean, it's just, it's like name a staple in the colors, and it's in here.
This used to be the deck before what was it? Hulk got unbanned, right? Like this was that was so Hulk was unbanned really before Partners, was it?
It was it's like they sort of came around at the same time. This deck sort of came around. So obviously Thrust Tymna, this used to be sort of the prototypical Thrust Tymna deck used to be Doomtide, sort of with like other variants running around, and then we got Dramatic Reversal printed, and that is a really good card, and then we got Paradox Engine printed, and that is also a really good card, and that's sort of how we got to this list. But quite honestly, CST and Flash Hulk sort of evolved in parallel,
right?
For the most part, and then Oracle got printed, and they became the exact same deck, and then Flash got printed, and now we're back to CST.
So here we are. But yeah, so if you're unfamiliar with this, like we said, this is just 4-color good stuff, all the best cards in their colors. And it's going to try to play a grindy mid-range game, and it's really good at doing that. I used to play Consult, like the Sans White version, the one with Thrasios and Vile Smasher back in the day.
Yep.
But this is always a classic, so we'll see how that does. And then finally, we've got Spleenface, and Spleen is going to be playing his food chain list with Thrasios and Nadir. And so this is one that, believe it or not, you and Spleen worked on for the Into the North team when you guys were going into the NSL, correct?
Correct. I will say Spleen did a lot of the pre-work, sort of getting some of the base lines hashed out and sort of getting the base, a lot of the base stuff in the deck. But it's something that definitely me, Spleen, and Matt Null did a fair amount of work going over and optimizing a bit and prep for NSL. So yeah, fairly familiar with it.
Yeah. So for those who aren't familiar with this list, what is this list really doing?
So it's a food chain list. It's also a RAZAKETH list. It's a food chain list because Nadir is basically mono black Prosh with partner, i.e. it stands in for Eternal Scourge and Mistral Griffin, etc., etc. So you just always have that in the command zone. And being able to play Thrasios in a food chain deck is sort of nuts in a lot of ways. Now it's not the best way that we want to be able to play Thrasios in a food chain deck. Obviously, that would be with an outlet in the command zone so that you can use stuff like Forbidden Tutors to run over your food chain and then your exile, cast from exile creatures. But it's sort of good enough when you just get to have a grind outlet in the command zone because food chain decks usually don't have grind power. But anyway, It's sort of a list that's sort of a mid-range Sultai list with reanimation stuff for RAZAKETH and Villas, and then access to a food chain win con. It actually performs fairly well as a grindy list because rather than Prosh, where you have to play these outlets like stuff like Perforos and Walking Ballista and such that aren't particularly great in a long game because they're only really useful as outlets. The outlets in this deck can actually be things like Heritage Druid and Burslar Rangers. and stuff like even Prestidigitating as an outlet, because Nadir makes infinite elves along with the food chain combo, which you can then pump into Terrestrials to draw your deck and do that kind of stuff. So you actually have like a bunch of these outlets that are a lot better in like card quality wise than you would normally get in a food chain deck. So sort of interesting.
Right. Yeah, this is really, really interesting, and I've got to play against this a couple times with you guys on Team Turn 3. But really getting to see this in this pod is going to be very exciting. So we'll see exactly how this goes off. Looking at the turn order, Spleen did win the die roll. He is going to be going first. Second is going to be Jacob. He is going going third is Cobblepott, and last, unfortunately, is Fenix. Looking at the opening hands, Fenix did keep his first 7. His first 7 was Force of Will, Gilded Drake, Swan Song, Mystical Tutor, Lotus Petal, Chrome Mox, and Windswept Heath. So you're sitting in 4th place, you're on CST, you're looking at this and you're going, this is probably going to be a grindy pot. How do you feel about this opening hand?
Honestly, like, sort of fine. The Gilded Drake is sort of nice as Najeela bait. I know Pongo hates that people Gilded Drake Najeela, like, to the core, but quite honestly, in Thrust Timna, Najeela's pretty nice just for getting those free attackers on basically everyone. And then you have protection, you have some fast mana. This could, like, potentially, if you wanted it to be a turn 1 Timna as well, which is pretty nice. And then you have the Force Will to back that up, and you have a Mystical Tutor to go get half of a combo, or just get an Adnaz if you end up going that route. So I'm pretty happy with this hand, honestly.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing what he might be able to do. That Force of Will might be able to put in some work early on. Cobblepot is going third. He also kept his first 7. His 7 was Verdant Catacombs, a Snow-Covered Forest, Birds of Paradise, Deafening Silence, Varagoth Blood Sky Sire, Leonin Relic Warder, and Eldritch Evolution. So, how do you feel about this sitting in the 3rd spot?
You know what I love to say about turn 2 Timna decks is that turn 2 Timna is a great thing, and you just keep hands that do turn 2 Timna things. Quite as I see 2 lands and a Birds of Paradise. That's a snap keep in a Timna deck with dorks.
Yeah, I think I said that to you. When I moved off of playing like Mad Farm for a bit, and just played CST, and I was like, oh man, every 7 I feel like is just fine.
Yep,
like
fine.
I can keep this.
Works for me. Yep, we're good. We can do this. I was carried for years off of the back of turn 2 Timnas. That smooths over so many hands.
Absolutely, it's so good. Well, we'll see how he does there. The Deafening Silence. What do you think in this pod? Would you try and drop that out early, or are you gonna probably sit on that?
It's pretty good. I'd probably I would say that, like, I would like to Deafening Silence turn 1, but I think not playing the Birds of Paradise is a bit too punishing, especially when you don't have a huge amount of other mana in your hand, and you're sort of like, it's going to be a very slowly developing game if you play the Deafening Silence first. So as much as I'd like to play it first, I think holding it for a turn is fine here, or even potentially 2 turns, just to make sure that you have a Timna out before you drop it down.
Right. Well, we'll see what he does. Going second, like we said, is Jacob. 3 out of 3 all kept their first 7. And his 7 was Mana Crypt, Badlands, Underground Sea, Force of Will, Deathrite Shaman, Llanowar Elves, and Fierce Guardianship. And, a turn 1 Timna is not bad.
Excuse me, turn 1 Najeela, and yeah.
Or Najeela.
I don't know.
That's what I meant.
I don't know what it is with Najeela players and just drawing Mana Crypt in their opening hand, but it's just, yeah, I mean, I guess just keep those and fucking play the game. I don't know, man.
It's either turn 1 Najeelas, or they get the turn 1 Mana Crypts, or they get the turn 1 Jeweled Lotus every time.
Yep. Oh, and you can't discount having the Mox it into Tinder wall openings as well.
Right.
Also,
absolutely.
They always have.
So, looking at this hand here, how do you feel about it overall outside of the fact, hey, we get our turn 1 Tymna or Najeela.
Yeah, there you go. Honestly, not super great. The Force Will is going to be a bit taxed here to find blue cards, considering that you're also looking for a win condition. I would have been happy about this if the Llanowar Elves was something else, especially since you're not going to be able to cast Llanowar Elves off your current mana base, and you're going to have to rely on Deathrite Shaman activations to get there. But I feel like the upside of being able to hit basically any tutor in your deck and just getting a win there is pretty nice. The only issue I can foresee going for that is that you're going to need to find a white source first. The Deathrite Shaman cannot do that on its own for Najeela wins. You only have finite numbers of lands and bins. So you will have to find a white source here. You do have the green source covered in the Llanowar Elves. So it shouldn't be that hard, but it's going to take a couple of draws for this hand to come together into a winning hand. That being said, turn 1 Najeela is just too good to pass up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we will see exactly how that works out for him. Going first, like we said, is Spleenface, and he did keep his second 7. Okay, so not everybody kept their first 7. His 7 was Undergrowth Stadium, Underground Sea, Elvish Mystic, Carpet of Flowers, Ponder, Life, Death, and Nature's Claim. So you're going first. You know what this table's looking like. How do you feel about keeping this one?
It's sort of awkward to have the Carpet of Flowers in the opener here. There's like, you would be able to just like usually jam it out into an Elvish Mystic if you're not going first, but still fine. I'm pretty happy with this hand. You have the Elvish Mystic for early acceleration. You're probably going to be able to start getting in Thrasios activations fairly soon to start picking up new cards and get new looks at stuff if you don't just draw into what you need. But the existence of the cantrip plus some amount of interaction and then a combo piece here just gives you a lot of like live draws into potentially like finding stuff for RAZAKETH, and then you already have 2 creatures in play with Thrasios and Elvish Mystic, or just finding whatever and then being able to get there off the Ponder.
Right. Well, we'll see exactly how this goes down. We are going to take a quick timeout, and we'll be right back on the other side with the start of today's game. And welcome everybody back to the Mind Sculptors gameplay series. I'm your host, Callahan, and again, I'm joined by my good friend, Sickrobot. And Sick, we were talking there during that, we were looking at all those opening hands, and if you were to, guess, going into this, who probably would you put your money on based off the opening hands, based on the turn order, based on the decks, going into this?
Honestly, I put a lot of stock into either Spleen or Jacob here. The ability to win through that deafening silence, unlike Fenix, is definitely going to be a big one. I will say CST does have a bit of a rough time with rule of laws. You have a nice value plan with your commanders, but you just don't really get to win through it unless you like somehow manage to get a Consult Oracle through without somebody having interaction.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's super valuable being able to either do Najeela stuff or Food Chain stuff through it.
Right. Well, we'll see how things go. We're going to head on over to the game. They had no pregame effects, and Spleen is going to go ahead and draw for his turns. We'll see what he leads off with here. Leads with an underground or Undergrowth Stadium and an Elvish Mystic. Seems pretty by the books as far as opening turns go.
I'd say so. Definitely going to see this turn 1 Najeela. Yeah.
And it looks like, if it looks like, smells like, sounds like, it's a turn 1 Najeela.
Just about. I am sort of interested if Cobble's going to go for this forest first here, or is going to expand his mana possibilities with the Verdant Catacomb. Catacomb first is also probably nice to get out of the way for opposition agents, possibly, because everybody at this table could have an op agent. So I think I might have liked to have seen the fetch first, especially in a 3-color deck where your mana is going to be a lot more set in what you actually need out of it. But it goes for the forest.
So we've got Command Tower Chrome Mox out of Fenix. We'll see what he imprints there. Mystical Tutor. All right.
Interesting. So this indicates to me that Fenix either drew like a lot more mana off of something or drew a piece of gas, because that Mystical Tutor was sort of the saving grace of that hand with giving you consistent access to gas here. And now that it's gone, I'm not sure how likely it is that he's going to be able to either present an early win or cobble together a win at a later point.
All right. And so he's casting a Gilded Drake. It's on the stack. Jacob is going to force it, pitching the Fierce Guardianship.
Unfortunate that you can't Fierce Guardianship a Gilded Drake, but gotta do what you gotta do.
Right. And Swan Song the Force.
Wow.
Fenix just had it all.
You know,
so
sometimes
Fenix Jacob knew exactly what it was going for.
You know what? Sometimes you just gotta give the Najeela player 5 power worth of flyers in exchange for the Najeela, you know?
Sometimes it's worth it, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
So Fenix, right there, he's got a Najeela, and that's going to be the end of his turn, I believe.
Unfortunately, this does basically lock Fenix out of Adnaz this game, because he's going to very quickly be out of Adnaz range.
Right. So very early on, it looks like Fenix is just going right at Jacob and what's going on his board. And granted, you kind of have to go after those Najeelas
Especially
if they come out too
turn
early.
one Najeela, it's so hard to stop it from just snowballing and taking over with the amount of warriors it can generate. So it's definitely nice to get rid of it early.
Carpet of Flowers from Spleenface. And then he's going to tap down and he's going to play a Thrasios. And oh my gosh, Morgan, why is your enchantment in between your two creatures, my guy? Oh my goodness. You know what?
Sometimes you just gotta have a super harmonious board state. You gotta weave everything together.
And Jacob does lose that Crypt roll, unfortunately. We'll see what his land for turn is going to be. I like his playmat. I just realized that's the Idyllic Tutor art.
It's a great one.
I just realized what that was. I was like sitting here looking at it. I was like, oh, that looks really cool. So it looks like he is going to be considering attacks before he does anything.
Yeah, I mean, there's only really one attack here. Morgan doesn't really have life requirements for the most part.
He does to a point to stay on RAZAKETH lines, but
it's fairly RAZAKETH is fairly lifelite for the most part, especially compared to Adnaz. So definitely going at Fenix here, and it did.
Well, Jacob did swing at Fenix here, so that puts Fenix down to 37 life, and we're getting an Underground Sea and a Deathrite Shaman.
Yep, this was fairly expected.
So holding back the blue mana. I don't think he has any other counter magic that we know of, but at the very least it does represent counter magic, which I think is important.
Yep. I mean,
Verdant Catacombs here from Cobble.
Knowing Jacob's hand, there's also a very real chance that he just doesn't have anything. We know that he has a Llanowar Elves and some other stuff, which wasn't very castable from that Underground Sea, so.
Cobblepott cracks the Verdant here, and it seems like Jacob did not draw an opposition agent, so it ended up working out.
Yeah, it happens. You know, I would have loved to have seen Jacob draw an op agent here, but he didn't. So late fetch goes unpunished, I guess. It's gonna be interesting to me to see whether Cobble goes for the Deafening Silence.
Okay, Scrubland.
Okay, this indicates to me that we're seeing a Tymna, but I could be wrong.
We'll see exactly what we get out of him. And like we said, this deck does play a little bit differently from Boonweaver in that it's a lot more stacks oriented than Boonweaver, and even Anafenza Hulk it was.
Yes, especially because it's not on Hulk, it's on RAZAKETH, which is a
right.
lot lot easier to work through stacks with. You get to play some other stacks effects, I think.
Right. Deafening Silence from Cobblepott, and he's gonna pass. So it looks like he just wants to bring the pace of the game way back.
Yeah, interesting to me, sort of, because I'm not sure that, like, I think anybody, if I'm in Cobble's position, I'm not sure if, like, I think that anybody's actually going to be casting multiple spells a turn at this point. Maybe Morgan is, I don't know. But it seems to me like Jacob and Fenix have sort of dumped hands already. And I'm not sure that, like, this is the optimal time to be deploying this Deafening Silence rather than, you know, going after a value engine like Varigoth or Tymna.
So let's see what Fenix fetches here with his Windswept Heath.
There's also the potential issue of, like, making a land drop next turn and sort of being mana inefficient and not being able to go, like, Tymna plus Deafening Silence, where it's like you're just wasting 2 mana this turn. It's like it could have just been a lot more mana efficient to go, like, Varigoth this turn, Tymna plus Deafening Silence next turn, or, like, Tymna this turn, Varigoth plus Deafening Silence next turn, or something, like some sort of combination. I'm just not super convinced that the mana inefficiency here is worth getting the Deafening Silence down this turn specifically.
And there comes the Tymna. And I would venture a guess that these Najeela attackers are going to be going at Cobblepott.
I would assume so. That's also another thing, is that, like, I think not having the blockers for the Tymna or for the Najeela warriors is also sort of rough here, especially because, like, you really need to stop the warriors coming down early or you just never get a chance.
Yeah. What's there's a number, right? Where once there's a certain amount of warriors on the battlefield, it's just kind of, you know, there's no coming back.
Well, I mean, it's always dependent on what blockers people have. Like, if everybody has 8 blockers for Najeela warriors, you could have, like, 4 warriors and it still doesn't matter. But typically, I'd say, like, at the point where you have, like, 3 tokens, it starts getting very difficult to stop them from accruing. And then, like, once Najeela has swung and made, like, 7 tokens total, you basically can't stop it at that point through, like, reasonable blocking means.
We are on Spleenface's turn, and Morgan is going to target Jacob with his Carpet of Flowers and cast a Ponder. And I must say, I know with his card there, he does have the correct copy of Ponder, in my opinion.
Yes.
The only real Ponder.
I mean, the 3 orb Ponder is,
it's fine.
It's nice. It's quaint.
It's quaint. my favorite Ponder art is the Lorwyn art, and my favorite preordained art is the Koth versus Venser dual deck art.
I mean, that being said, there is just the fact that the Time Spiral and the Mastered Ponder is coming out, and that might just tip it all over the edge, right?
Right, no kidding. And Dark Confidant Bob comes down for Morgan.
Great find, because there wasn't a lot of card draw going on in this hand.
Right.
And now just having the extra card every turn is really going to help going into the later game, because I don't think this game is ending anytime soon.
Yeah, it's going to be a long, grindy affair, boys and girls. Oh my gosh, Morgan. I need to talk with him about how he arranges his board. Good grief.
What are you talking? It's lands, non-land mana sources, non-lands.
Everything, I don't know if maybe it's the way that I learned Magic, but I like group everything by type. And so it's just very like everything has to be there in its type. There, Jacob did, if you were too busy listening to me talk, be frustrated. Jacob did go ahead and swing in at Fenix for another 3 with this Gilded Drake, so that drops Fenix down to 32 life. We're now over to Cobblepott's turn, and Jacob did not hit his 3rd land drop, it seems.
And also elects not to use the Deathrite Shaman to cast Land of Elves, which is an interesting note to me. Not having immediate access to that green mana might bite him going forward into the next turn.
And there's Tymna. And it looks like Cobblepott also missed his third land drop. So
yeah, this is something that I'm not super happy about now, because especially like Fenix having close to critical mass,
Najeela.
it's just this is gonna get pretty rough pretty quickly.
So let's see what he brings, what he drew this turn. And you can kind of hear the wheels turning with there is here we have the game chat in there, and I almost feel like I can hear Fenix just thinking.
Hear the gears grinding.
And he's going to go straight into combat.
Okay. Ooh, this Najeela attack is greedy. Just right at, I don't even have to tell you who's, like, I don't even have to know who's swinging at. This is a greedy Najeela swing. There's a very real chance Cobble blocks this if he's attacking Cobble.
Everything's going at Spleen, I think.
Interesting.
Okay, Tymna Najeela at Cobble and 3 warrior tokens at Spleenface. So he's kind of daring Spleen to block one of the warriors with his Dark Confidant.
Well, he's daring him to block Najeela with the Dark Confidant here. Obviously...
No, he swung the Najeela and Tymna at Cobblepott.
Okay, gotcha.
Excuse me.
Yep.
3 warrior tokens at Spleen and Tymna and Najeela at Cobblepott.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with the missed land drop, it sort of telegraphs that Cobble isn't willing to block with the Tymna here, which sort of sucks.
Right.
But he will.
And he's going to trade Tymna's. Interesting. All right. But not the Najeela.
So the Najeela, I understand, because it would be going back to Jacob.
Right.
And I'm assuming, and really rightfully so, they really don't want Najeela to have the Najeela back. That being said, I'm not a super huge fan of this trade, just because you're just so far behind on tempo now.
Granite
And
Magistrate.
You're never casting that Najeela again. Or never casting that Tymna again, rather.
Oof.
So, this is far more understandable to me. I get why he swung with the Najeela now, because Fenix must have been very comfortable with the Najeela getting blocked and going back to Jacob.
Ooh.
He could have blocked it.
Force of Will pitching Windfall from Spleenface.
It's a good one.
And he also has a force.
My God.
And he's pitching his Mental Misstep.
Crazy.
And he's been sitting on that force since his opening hand.
Yeah.
He's had that for a couple turns now. So good plays there by Fenix. Resolving his Draneth and really establishing a board presence here early. Albeit with Jacob's cards. Spleenface is going to play a Tropical Island for turn.
This is sort of rough with for Spleen now. He's well, okay. It's sort of rough. It's not terrible, but he's now locked out of food chain because you can't do Nadir stuff with Draneth in play. So you're basically fully on the reanimate something plan, which he has half of the pieces for. It's just he has to get there with the other half. Looks like a land drop. Flashing the camera there, buddy. Stop giving us a bad name. You gotta play tighter.
We're professionals.
Okay. Yep, that's a card.
All right, Raz, that's a really sad Bob hit.
So fun thing.
Well, it's sad in one way, but
fun thing about RAZAKETH, or drawing RAZAKETH rather, in that deck, is that RAZAKETH is also an outlet for food chain in that deck. Because you make infinite elves, and it's a creature that you can cast with creature mana, so it just lets you teeter up the other outlets in your list.
That's wild.
Yeah, sort of fun. So this wouldn't be a terrible draw if the food chain was still live. As is, though.
If there was not a Draneth.
Yeah.
We're over to Jacob's turn here. And he's exiling that Windswept Heath, making a green. There's the Llanowar Elves.
Yeah.
And so Jacob just has not been hitting land drops this game.
So I'm sort of confused as to why this wasn't played last turn. I'm assuming it's because he was holding on to a double blue counterspell, which is fairly understandable. But the fact that he didn't even use that counterspell on the Drannith or like anything else in this turn cycle is sort of strange to me. Especially if you're considering just like if you,
perhaps
if you don't use it on anything and then you then tap out this turn cycle is a bit weird play patterns wise.
There comes Varragoth. My thought process with holding that and maybe not countering the Drannith is, you also don't want the food chain deck to be able to do food chain things. So
sense.
I don't know.
And I guess I can.
Hey, Fenix got a land drop.
This is going to start going downhill very quickly. Those warriors begin to do things now.
And Fenix is sitting there going, oh no, Cobble has Najeela blockers. And he's attacking Spleenface with 4 warriors this time.
4? Makes sense. He has the same effective number of blockers, and he is the more lifey as a resourcey.
Right.
That being said, I mean, Cobble also has RAZAKETH, but we do know that RAZAKETH is in Spleen's hand and is readily available whenever he has the mana to cast it, so understandable. It's going to be interesting to me to see what Jacob has in terms of interaction going around this turn order. I'm not sure if we're going to see anything worthy of interacting with, but it's sort of interesting to see what he might be holding up, and or if he's just missing the colors to do anything because missing land drops.
Right. We did see Thrasios coming down there for Fenix. I'm really excited for our Mind Sculptors, Thrasios and Timna Prince to finally arrive. They are supposed to be here soon, so I'm really excited about those. And Spleen is not having any problems hitting land drops as he plays a snow-covered island as land for turn, tapping 3 mana. What do you think we're seeing here?
We're seeing Thrasios activation with the mana floating.
Thrasios activation, all right.
Sense. And that mana drain is so scary, it's unbelievable, because that very quickly allows him to cast that RAZAKETH as soon as anybody gets a spell countered. So, yeah, we'll see.
And he just passed the turn one over to Jacob, and Jacob did not lose the die roll that time.
Thankfully. Hate to see people die to Throne Crypts. Unless it's Morgan, in which case he usually deserves to, but anybody else just hate to see it.
I felt like on Sunday when we were playing on Team Turn 3, I was just getting the worst crypt rolls I've ever had in my entire life. I have never had such disastrously bad crypt rolls.
Sometimes it just happens.
And exiling the Verdant Catacombs and Llanowar Elves there. Eladamri's Call.
Yep. That's not a bad one.
At sorcery speed is interesting. That's probably fine. But
I'm assuming this is because probably has additional interaction. Oh, yeah, all right. Taking the Najeela back. I see how it is.
All right. And so it begins.
Yeah, it's understandable if you are... First of all, if you're casting the Gilded Drake here, but it would also make sense if you're... if you want to get it out of the way and then also hold up interaction. But yeah, we're just...
casting the Gilded Drake. So Fenix has a Gilded Drake that's not his actual Gilded Drake, and Jacob has a Gilded Drake, but he's keeping his token one around.
Yep. I mean, you gotta represent the game state correctly. It's not your Gilded Drake. It's Phoenix's Gilded Drake.
That's true.
Apparently Phoenix's
Ooh, Dryad Arbor. How did I miss that in his mana base? I didn't realize he had a Dryad Arbor.
Dryad Arbor there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad he has that Dryad Arbor and not the one that lives in infamy.
Oh, what are you talking about? I love that Dryad Arbor. Just get to hide it in your mana base.
And Cobblepott did hit that third land drop, but it's a little bit, his mana is just awkward.
Yeah.
Hitting.
Yeah. I don't know how to comment on this. It's rough. You have stuff to cast.
It do be like that sometimes.
You're not going to be able to cast a lot of it. From what we know of his hand, Eldritch Evolution is fine here. But you don't really want to sack the Varigoth. Varigoth can tutor, but it's a tad slow without Tymna in play. Obviously, having like 2 mana Vamps is really good when you have a Tymna, and you can immediately convert them. But without our Tymna, it's a lot more lukewarm. Having to wait the entire turn cycle to get access to that card can sort of, it stifles the greatness of what Varigoth can be in Tymna decks.
Varigoth's a very interesting card.
Yeah, it was sort of hailed as like the savior stacks decks in some circles when it was spoiled, but
Ooh, wow. Grasp of Fate.
That is a lot of value in a removal spell.
That is a strong Grasp of Fate.
One thing
sounds like it's resolving.
Wow. I would just say the one thing I was going to be concerned about might have been a mana drain on this, because that would have gotten Morgan up to RAZAKETH mana. But yeah, I don't think you're super worried about losing much of your board as Spleen here, so probably just let this go and then try to counter whatever Fenix does in his turn.
Yeah. So Grasp hit Dan, Bob, and Najeela, and Jacob just opted to put Najeela back to the command zone.
Reasonable. I can never remember if Grasp of Fate is one of those cards where it's one of those ring effects where you can put the commander back in the command zone, and when it goes away, it pulls it back out. Might be.
I don't know. I think they're discussing that in there. I think
great.
They changed the way it works.
We're all confused across space and time about this exact ruling.
That's what they're still kind of talking about in
awesome.
there. Nothing very unlike Morgan to sit there and go deep on what exactly is going on.
Glad I'm not the only.
Cobblepott is going to go ahead and pass the turn. And unfortunately, Fenix cannot just fall back on the let's just turn Najeela sideways game plan.
Unfortunately.
As he plays Savannah for turn. And there's a Tymna.
Oh, no. I think I know what's happening to this Tymna. Can you guess, class?
It sounds like it resolved.
Wow, that is crazy. I will say right now that Spleen is far more disciplined than I would have ever been with this mana drain. Just saying,
you would have fired it off. Huh?
There's not a whole lot of mana left over at this table, and that looks like something that lets me cast RAZAKETH on my next turn. So,
all 3 warriors coming at Cobble. And Spleenface, yeah, he attacked at Spleenface, and so he'll draw 2 cards. Not going after Jacob, however, as Jacob honestly has a decently sized board. If he ever can get his Najeela back, he should be in business.
Yeah, it's sort of getting there. The only issue is like possibly generating warriors. Morgan can actually just block 1 warrior at a time whenever Najeela swings and stop it from accumulating. So there could definitely be an issue there. But you have the board state, you have the mana. There's definitely some lines here where Najeela can just get there.
And there comes Nadir. Nadir is a 3/3 that costs how much? 6 mana?
6 mana. A lot of mana.
That is a lot of mana.
That being said, with
the
Draneth out of play, this is pretty scary because now actually just Food Chain gets there. We know he has the Outlet and RAZAKETH in hand. So just needs to find 1 3-mana card.
Goodness. So all right, and we're going over to Jacob's turn here. As he draws for turn, and like I was saying, we're not exactly sure. He's played everything out of his hand so far.
Yeah, pretty sure we have no known information about what he's working with. So this could get interesting. May or may not get interesting. Fully depends on whether or not his hand is entirely mana sources that he hasn't played yet.
Right. Let's see what we get here. Looks like he's preparing something. Tapping Llanowar Elves. Utopia Sprawl on the Dryad Arbor.
That is rough because it's a very easy card type to kill, but
right.
I understand when it's your only forest.
It do be like that sometimes. Yep. There is the Najeela coming back, so Najeela is back on the board. And, sometimes the Dryad Arbor with the Utopia Sprawl just kind of does what it needs to do.
Yep. Just gets there sometimes. Now,
I didn't hear what color he named on. I'm assuming he named white.
Yeah. The issue that I sort of have with this is that, now, that being said, like, what I'm about to say, there isn't that much creature removal at this table, but I'm still very concerned about the fact that it's pretty easy just to take Najeela. Like, there's enough blockers to stop Najeela from accruing tokens here. And it's also very easy to take her off of being able to actually combo by just killing that Dryad Arbor.
It seems like Jacob is kind of evaluating his attacks here.
Yeah, I'm not super happy about any of these attacks with Najeela. Flyer, maybe, if you want to get Gilded Drake in for some tacked on damage, but there's not really a good... Well, I guess also because Najeela doesn't have haste, that would be a reason why you wouldn't attack with it.
I mean, yeah,
Thanks, Reed.
That helps.
Good brain moment. But I mean, also, even next turn, I'm not sure there's going to be good Najeela attacks.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Varagoth has Death Touch, correct?
Yeah, I believe it's a 2/2 with Death Touch. Might be a 2/3 with Death Touch even. Either way, does the job that it needs to do.
Yeah, it makes things bigger than it go boom.
Yep.
And Cobblepott is swinging Varagoth at... He said you, but I'm not exactly sure who you is.
Well, it's you, Callahan.
Oh.
Attacking you through space and time.
Interesting. I didn't know that I was in this game. It's coming at Spleenface. Okay.
Reasonable.
That makes more sense. So right now we're here at the 30-minute mark. And if you're kind of evaluating where this game at, who do you feel like's in the driver's seat right now? Sick.
I'd say, like, pressure-wise, it's probably Spleen. He has the most obvious, like, access to his win condition. That being said, Fenix definitely has, like, the tools to just pull ahead the longer this game goes on. And then, I don't know, Cobble, sorry to say it, buddy, sort of just a speed bump at this point. And Jacob is going to have to really hit, like, a nice sequence of draws. Or somehow be able to generate warriors to get into a winning position here.
Some land would be nice, I would think.
Yeah. even then, though, I feel like at this point, it's even less lands and more just like, can I find just Derevi off the top to try to get there?
Right. And he's boasting the Varagoth, so we're finally getting to see this thing go. And he's just kind of, as he said, afraid of opposition agents.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I must say, I've been playing too greedy into opposition agent, as Sunday proved.
It is an easy thing to walk your face directly into. Definitely, yeah. It's like, there was a time when Aven Mind Sensor was sort of played in some decks in the pod, but you definitely couldn't Dark Writ into Aven Mind Sensor.
Yeah.
There was a lot more telegraphed when somebody was purposefully holding up white mana, included in like
right.
mana, so at this point, it's everybody's playing it. It's Dark Writable. It's no holds barred. You're going to get off agented sometimes.
Sometimes it's going to hurt your mana base, and you're going to be salty about it, but it will be
Sometimes it's going to hurt your face, like when you activate a Vamp Tutor ability and just get your Windcon extracted.
Survival of the fittest.
It's a good one. Won't deny. Yeah, I mean, survival is definitely a way to pull ahead in these games. Does a ton of work.
All right. Survival has dropped down, so we'll see exactly kind of what goes down here.
Obviously does less work
Perfect pull.
with 2 Deathrite Shamans in play, but it's still a great choice just to be able to swap any like dork that you draw into a useful creature. Or say maybe swap that Lean-In Relic Warder that's stuck in your hand into a good Hate Bear or Advantage Engine.
So Spleen is acknowledging that nobody is playing islands apparently this game, so his Carpet of Flowers is not doing a lot.
I was not thinking about that. Just very sad carpet. And I sort of predicted this at the beginning of the game going first. Like going first carpet is not the most amazing thing ever. But it really just has not gone anywhere from like turn 2, which definitely a bit tragic, I will say.
So let's see what Fenix is doing here. And I don't know if you're listening or not, but they're currently talking about the the merits of Dryad Arbor and Green Sun Zenith and finale of Devastation.
So I mean, the argument against it was always that like it was a 50-50 chance whether or not you draw the Green Sun Zenith before the Dryad Arbor. Like it was like it's a dork half the time, and half the time it's a bad like tapped forest. But now you also have Finale of Devastation, so now it's only a 33% chance that you draw the Dryad Arbor before one of those. That being said, he did draw it this game, so.
Spleenface is tapped out. Fenix did draw 2 cards there. Are we starting to move into a part of the game now where life totals might start becoming an issue?
I mean, yeah, definitely with a Crypt in play for one player, and
oh well, Necropotence
most certainly becomes an issue now. Yeah.
Well, remember how we were talking about how Fenix might just jump ahead and
that's looking
start to take control.
That's looking like something that he's liable to do right about now. This is a bit awkward until the Deafening Silence goes away, but mark my words, that Deafening Silence is going away. There's a fair number of people at this table that want that thing gone, and there's a little there's like a very small number of draws that are required to get rid of it. We know that Morgan has a Nature's Claim in his hand if he ever needs it gone. And Fenix is definitely liable to hit something off the top here.
So Fenix did pay 10 life there. So he's going to go to discards. And so we'll see exactly how this all kind of works out here.
Yeah, this is how Necropotence resolves.
Yeah, no kidding.
A bunch of counting cards and making hard decisions, and
not quite as bad as Limb Duel's Vault.
You know what? I've definitely seen worse Necropotence than I've seen Limb Duel's Vaults.
That's fair.
You can work through Limb Duel's Vaults pretty quickly. There's like very
yeah, but have you ever had to Limb Duel's Vault on Cockatrice though?
Oh yes. Quite honestly, actually, I like Limb Duel's Vault on Trice better than in real life.
I would imagine. I just can't imagine. I've had to. We used to play at the beginning of the pandemic. We played some amount of Commander over. I forget what it's called. Virtual tabletop.
Oh sure, tabletop simulator.
Whatever it is, and it was very, very difficult to play on that. We're discarding some lands, a birds, a bob.
A Ristic Study. Just some stuff.
Yeah.
Sort of surprised to see the Ristic Study go, but I'm assuming that just means that he's looking to go for a win sooner rather than later here.
Absolutely. We'll see exactly how that all plays out. Spleenface, it should be over to Morgan's turn now.
Yeah. It's actually sort of interesting in the dynamic around the Deafening Silence now, because it's sort of in a place now where Morgan sort of wanted it gone before, when he was a bit in the lead with having like a win con in hand and having like a Deathrite Shaman out, or not a Dark Confidant out to generate the extra cards per turn. But now that the Dark Confidant's gone away and Fenix is so far ahead in card quality, and is like probably representing a win next turn if the Deafening Silence goes away, it's now sort of in Morgan's best interest to keep it around until he can sort of get his lead back under him and like get back up in cards as well.
He still does have that mana drain to sit on too.
Far more disciplined than I would have ever been. Quite honestly, I probably would have countered the Timnon and have gone for it on that turn, but you know what? He's allowed to do what he's allowed to do.
So let's see. He does get a Gaia's Cradle. So Gaia's Cradle really puts him in a place where he's got a pretty good food chain outlet now.
Yep. I mean, the RAZAKETH was already there, but now you don't have to cast anything after the food chain, which can matter in a lot of cases. So, or rather, you don't have to cast,
Yeah.
You still have to cast Nadir a bunch of times after you cast the food chain, but you don't have to you don't have to commit an outlet or anything. That being said, there are sort of issues with Nadir getting countered during a win attempt in a lot of cases where you might not have enough mana to recast, and then suddenly your Eternal Scourge costs 1 billion mana, and it's really hard to make another attempt at it.
So it's over to Jacob's turn, and I don't think he's hit the land drop. I don't know if I want to consider Dryad Arbor a land drop.
It's producing land. It has a Utopia Sprawl on it. I don't know how you could consider it a land drop.
That's fair. He's going to cycle Street Wraith there. I'll give it to you. It's a land drop.
That 97 card deck. Make it worth it. Let's go. All I want to see in CDH is the Legacy Death Shadow play pattern of cycle Street Wraith, reanimate Street Wraith. Get that 3/4 swamp walk. Let's go.
Man, that would be wild.
Great. That's a great Timid attacker. I don't know what to say. 3/4 swamp walk? Everybody's playing swamps.
It's true. So let's see. Dryad Arbor's tapping for green and I believe a white. I think he named white.
Yeah, I can't imagine it would have been.
Don't quote me on that.
For
there
exactly
is the
this
Derevi.
reason. Yeah, I mean this.
And he can just swing into Cobble.
Yep. And
if this
interestingly
resolves
enough, he wouldn't even need, like, even if Cobble held up both of his blockers here, it wouldn't matter because Derevi just taps down the Varoth.
And here comes Mana Dream, I'd assume.
Yep. I would guess. I mean, I'd hope that there's an additional piece of protection here, but otherwise...
No response. He's just jamming it. That's rough.
I guess you just forgot about the mana drain. That was public knowledge. Spleen did, or derived knowledge, I guess, rather, but he did reveal that off of Thrasker's activation earlier in the game, so...
Yeah.
Either
I feel like
we saw... I think either we saw Jacob forget about that, or quite possibly, and the other thing would be Jacob having access to another win in his hand, so it's like having Nature's Lore as well, and was just looking to jam one at a time.
I'm pretty sure you mean Nature's Will.
Sorry, yeah, Nature's Lore is a bad card that doesn't see a lot of play. Okay, it's not bad; it just does not see a lot of play. Nature's Will on the
3
other hand,
visits.
yeah. Excuse you, it's bad into the north. It's an into the north that can't find dark depths.
Into the north that can't find dark depths. So the Swan is attacking Phoenix, I think.
Makes sense. Want to pressure the Necro player. Nothing wrong with that. I am sort of concerned about that Derevi though, just because I feel like Derevi is a lot better as a win con later in the game when people have more blockers, just because Derevi can actually tap down opposing blockers when it comes into play and when you get some hits through.
Right.
So if Jacob does have the Nature's Will or some other win con or win attempt ready to go, I think I probably would have liked to have seen that more before trying to go with the Derevi.
Mm-hmm.
It would have given the mana drain one more mana, but with Gaia's Cradle in play at this point, that's not really something that you should care about a huge amount.
And hey, Cobble's recovering a little bit. Got a Gaia's Cradle.
That helps out. We actually might see a Kadama here. Wouldn't be
that would be hot.
Super surprised. But also, I would not be surprised if we see something like Activate Survival pitching that lean in Relic Order.
Yeah, the Relic Order has been not great.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, there's definitely times when it could have been good here, but... Or is he just casting it? Oh my lord.
He
is
is
casting it, I guess. I guess Cobble just wants bodies in play. Honestly, I might have tried to get a bit tricky about this and instead, like, cycled it away and gotten, like, an op agent at instant speed or something to that effect.
Okay.
But this is fine as well. Just sort of, like, immediately putting the body in play to get the refund on mana through Gaia's Cradle.
So he hit the Carpet of Flowers with the Leonin Relic Order.
Makes sense. Pretty much the only reasonable target at the table right now.
Well, everybody was saying the Necropotence, but he also pointed out that Phoenix has really already got his stuff off of it.
Out of it. Not a huge fan of removing.
And then you're letting him draw another card next turn.
Yep. Yeah, thinking about this more, I think I would have liked to have seen this Leonin Relic Order get cycled for something a bit more high impact. Because this also, you still can't cast your Kadama this turn because you're now down to 5 mana available. And you also still can't even cast Tymna because you have all of your black and white mana now on the bird rather than spread out. So you're just sort of stuck not really being able to utilize that Cradle much unless I'm completely wrong. Am I missing something?
How is he casting that? There, they noticed it just there.
Roll that one back. There we go.
Okay. I was confused there as well. I was like,
so it makes sense if Cobble thought that he could go for the Tymna after casting the Leaning Relic Order, but yeah, this is definitely an issue. And this is sort of why I would have liked to have seen the Leaning Relic Order cycled away to get something a bit more high impact, because yeah, I mean, the mana management here just doesn't work out, in my opinion. You're not like using the guy's cradle the most that you could.
End step Fenix there eats the Derevi, so the Derevi is out of the game.
Yep, no Noxious Rival for you.
Tainted Pact is on the stack here at the end step.
Would not be surprised if this is emptying the library. You have a Necro in play, so you're fairly safe for multiple turns. So if you don't feel safe jamming Oracle, you're fine. If you already have the Oracle in hand, like, you're good here. And then this also lets you like jam this in end step. If this resolves, you're fine. And then next turn you can Oracle plus protection under the Deafening Silence, since you're doing this in end step. So if he has the Oracle in hand, this is definitely, like, I'd be super happy with just like basically emptying library and hoping that there's like interaction or like something good in the bottom three. If not, I'm a bit less enthused about this, but you still, like, if this is your only tutor, you still just need to fire it off and try to find something good. Yeah,
I think he may be tutoring something, because he hung on that Assassin's Trophy for a while.
Ooh, that's
there's the Thor.
But I'm not sure you can stop on it unless you have a consult.
And Fenix just goes, well, that's not what you want to see. And he's going to have to keep going. This does run Lab Man.
Yeah, it does have Lab Man in there, which is an option. He's going to take the Windfall.
He's stopping at Windfall.
Can't feel good. Especially not Windfalling with the Deafening Silence in play. You're just not going to be able to deploy any of the fast mana that you hit off of it, and you're basically just limited to like playing out Dorks and passing turn after Windfall under Deafening Silence. That being said, it does get the Razaketh out of Morgan's hand, which means that you could just like immediately eat it with one of the Deathrite Shamans, but I'm still not super happy about current state. I could see this being good if there's a Hull Breacher, though. We know that Morgan has used his main interaction that we knew about. Cobble's unlikely to have interaction with only one colored mana. There's green, and Jacob only has 3 cards in hand.
Green and a Birds of Paradise.
Yes.
So he could have Negate. No, he can't. Never mind. Don't mind me. He's an Abzan.
If he had Negate, that would be cheating.
Don't mind me. I'm a professional. So, we're now approaching the hour mark in this game. And how do you think things have been sorting out here so far in this game?
It sort of shook out the way that I was thinking. Cobble did have to do a fair amount of catching up, and I'm still not convinced that he's fully caught up. He really needs to be utilizing that Survival of the Fittest, I think, a bit more, and just like filtering to the best stuff in his deck, and jamming it out. Yeah, Phoenix definitely hit the thing that he needed to hit to get ahead and become a winning threat.
Right.
And Nagila did hit the Drevi off the top, which I noted was a distinct possibility and would have almost won in the game, but unfortunately didn't have the backup for it. Honestly, I feel like I called the last half an hour pretty immaculately, if I do say so myself.
We're now here in the later phases of the game. Who said that CEDH ends on turn 3? Yeah. And there goes a Gilded Drake at, I believe, Cobblepott.
Interesting. I guess we're looking to kill Cobble to get rid of the Deafening Silence.
He might also just be holding back blockers for Jacob, who has a Nagila and a Warrior down. And he's going to discard. He's discarding a Sylvan Library, which feels really bad at 15 life.
Yep. I mean, it also feels really bad when you have a Necropotence in play and you don't actually get a draw step. Bit of anti-synergy there.
Nature's Claim from Spleenface. And I believe this is targeting the Deafening Silence.
Yeah, so you're not happy if this like resolves and then your win attempt fails, but I'm assuming this Nature's Claim is being made on the assumption that there's going to be a pretty strong win attempt coming out here, especially with the mana drain mana to be able to cast the RAZAKETH.
Right.
He's going to need some more black mana to cast RAZAKETH, but very reasonable to have access to that. Either that or there's a food chain win coming, which is also very reasonable, and would leave him with 2 additional mana left open for interaction.
Well, thank everybody for joining us this for this one. We do have a long. It is a longer game. We are still going here at the 52-minute mark, and Spleen's going to go to his turn and draw. He's got 3 colorless mana floating off that mana drain. Looks like he's going to go ahead and use that. Now, being off the Carpet of Flowers does seem like it is going to matter, because this is going to take Spleen off of that black mana that would let him cast the RAZAKETH.
Yeah, especially without, if he doesn't have a land drop here. And the land drop would need to be something pretty special. I mean, potentially not super special, just a black source, but, you know, a black source is pretty special at this point in time.
And Life is being cast.
That's pretty good with the guys in play.
Yeah.
Not a bad one.
And the Gaia's Cradle is getting fed.
Becoming pretty large. Large. 8 mana Gaia's Cradle.
He still can't cast the RAZAKETH, though, because he needs 3 black, correct?
Yep. Wouldn't be surprised if this is doing colorless black or colorless green.
This is Cabal Ritual?
Ooh,
Tainted Pact.
I'm assuming we're going for like either a Dark Crit or a food chain here.
All of those would be pretty hot.
Yeah. Pretty much any win gone here.
All right.
And Time Twister. Nope. Elves. Crop Rotation.
Crop Rotation, DC. All right, so we're seeing some pretty good stuff move through here.
Yeah. There's the food chain.
There's food chain.
Take that. Take that every day of the week. Take that to the bank.
And food chain is now in his hand.
Tapping, leaving.
Oh, I see what he's doing. So he's going to cast the food chain. I think he's going to use the food chain to cast the RAZAKETH.
So yes, but there's an intermediary step here.
Fierce Guardianship. Pact of Negation.
I'm sort of expecting that. Having left 3
blue
mana up, I'm assuming there's more interaction here as well. But yeah, you could say, pack back.
Packed back.
So you could say that he's using
no response to that
to cast the RAZAKETH. Okay, so he's not using it, but there's definitely an intermediary step there in which he makes infinite creature mana before doing so.
Not just revival.
Activate Thrasiers to draw back into it. What a line. And unfortunately, Deathrite Shaman cannot eat enchantments as much as we'd all like it to be able to.
Yep. And Noxious Revive. Man, what a line.
What a backup line. This is the joy of having Thrasios with a bajillion mana. Is you just get to do stupid stuff like this.
And this is why I believe, right? You guys wanted to be on Thrasios and Nadir for food chain, right? Is you have that outlet, you have that ability to just kind of get things back and keep
going.
going.
Is just higher card quality in general, but this is also definitely a reason is that Thrasios with a lot of mana is better than most food chain commanders at playing the long game. It also reminds me of days of doing stuff like in Flash Hulk meta and instant speed, going like Vampiric Tutor for Flash, activate Thrasios to draw into it, cast Flash.
Yep. I used to Flusterstorm on the Noxious Revival.
We've seen 1, 2, 3, enough.
There's 8 copies. All of them are targeting the Noxious.
8 copies sucks because, yeah, you are 1 mana off. So if Spleen wasn't sandbagging a land drop, not gonna be able to get there. Actually, I guess he's not even gonna be.
He paid for it.
He's gonna be able to activate the Thrasios. So I guess we're just gonna see next turn as well.
Okay.
Definitely not a bad thing to have access to, but I'd be worried about Fenix's chances, especially with that Deafening Silence con. And this is sort of what I was scared about going into Spleen's turn, is that that removal of the Deafening Silence was a high risk, high reward play, and that you're like, in order to do all of this stupid stuff that he's doing during this turn, you need to get rid of the Deafening Silence. But this now unlocks Fenix and all the cards that he has in hand, right? And that makes the windfall in his hand much better, because he's now like already unlocked. He doesn't have to waste the card or the time unlocking himself from the Deafening Silence. He just gets to immediately start spending mana on wheels and tears and such.
We're now on to Jacob's turn. And he's, as Cobblepott said in the game chat, the Mana Crypt is loving him today. I think he's only lost 1 Crypt roll so far today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just what happens when you when you play real formats as your main formats. The broken cards don't hate you as much. Is my that's my estimation. It's my hypothesis.
Right. So he's kind of evaluating what he wants to do here. Looks like he's doing some mental math. And by mental math, it looks very like actual, like he might as well have a chalkboard out, right? Like,
yeah, pretty much.
So what lines do you think he might be looking at right now?
God. Potentially calculating attacks. Could also be looking at an extended tutor chain to get to Oracle Consult. The only concern I have there is that you're very constrained on the mana that you have available to you to do that. You have like exactly Oracle Consult mana plus green, white, which isn't super tenable.
Right.
Potentially we're seeing... Okay.
Green, white...
Deafening Silence of his
He's casting his own Deafening Silence. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so I mean that
will
definitely stops Fenix from being able to win as easily. Interesting. What we're gonna see for the rest of this turn.
2 colorless and a green. Oh, and another green. He's there. It is Toski.
That definitely helps convert the Gilded Drake and the Swan. Makes life a lot easier when you already have flyers in play for this Tusky. Especially since it's unlikely that your Nagila is getting through a lot of these boards. Or Warriors, for that matter.
So he should be able to swing a Gilded Drake and a Swan at both Fenix and Cobblepott.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to split them up. You can actually just focus that damage because it's not a Tymna.
I guess they do. So who's the target here then? Is it Spleenface? Is it Fenix? Is it Cobble? Who are you going after? It's
reasonable to go after Fenix here. You can pressure Cobble fairly easily, I feel like, in the air after this. You just want to get
5 at Fenix. That's exactly what he does.
Player down low enough that doesn't really matter anymore. And then once Fenix is effectively out of the game, it's a lot easier for you to deal one-on-one with Morgan, and then Nagila's a very good understacked for Cobble if he can't cobble together. Pun not intended. if he can't cobble together in a winning time.
Never heard that one before, but Every time it hits the right way. All right, and he's passing for turn. Man, that Toski is certainly going to put in some work for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, there's a very real chance that it digs him out of the mana hole.
Opposition agent from Cobblepott at end of turn.
Not sure how much is doing at this point, but it's definitely going to stop, I think, the supplemental tutors from the rest of the table. I don't think it's locking anybody out of their primary game plan at this point, but it definitely helps restrict options.
So here's a very interesting thing to keep in mind. Varagoth is target player.
And it's a super interesting interaction in that you can basically start stealing pieces to Oracle Consult from other people's decks. Ooh.
Delay on the opposition agent.
Very reasonable choice. And I guess this...
And he had the 4th counterspell in hand there from Fenix.
This actually does answer
now, Fenix,
my question of why there is no pitching the Leaning Relic Warder to go find opposition at agent speed, which is that he just already had the opposition agent. Just had it locked and loaded and ready to go.
Fenix is going to have to pay a Pact of Negation trigger on his upkeep.
Good for the rest of the table, not so good for Fenix.
Yeah, he's in dire straits over there. He went from looking like he was in charge, and after Jacob's deafening silence, I think he is fallen back quite a ways.
Yeah, you're definitely looking to like take advantage of Morgan having to remove the stacks piece to go for it there. And it's sort of the rough side about being on the opposite side of the table, or being like right before the players, that like there's a very real chance something just comes back down. A lot of mana.
Are we seeing a Kodama?
It's an ELESH NORN. Yeah.
ELESH NORN. Oh boy.
That does a lot here.
Well, that Toski is gone. The warriors are gone. The mana dorks are gone. The Dryad Arbor's
this makes
gone.
It impossible for Morgan to food chain as well, of note. Yeah. A lot of stuff happening here.
Wow. So
this is the issue. This is the issue with putting Utopia Sprawl on a Dryad Arbor. Loses to ELESH NORN.
Yeah. Spleen looks like he might have a response.
Wouldn't be surprised. The last counter spell on Spleen's turn was a Flusterstorm, so there's not a lot he could have done about that without his own Flusterstorm or a Veil. So I wouldn't put him off of having some other form of interaction for this.
So if this resolves, is Cobblepott in the driver's seat?
I'd say so. This definitely buys enough time at this point that you put Najeela far enough out of the game. You put Morgan far enough out of the game where he can't really do much. And Fenix is losing a lot and is going to take some big hits here that I feel like you just probably are going to end up having enough time to just tutor for your wins. It also helps a lot with the survival lines of this ELESH NORN of note kills both Death Threat Shamans, so you can pretty safely start binning reanimation pieces with the survival as well here, which helps smooth out like how fast you can actually assemble your win. Maybe it buys you the extra, or not buys you the extra turn, but sort of takes the extra turn off of maybe like when you would otherwise be hard casting RAZAKETH to try to bypass the two Death Threat Shamans.
And Fenix is just sitting there going, I think I'm actually just dead.
Yep, wouldn't be surprised. Vargoth for 4 mana Death Touch. Leaning Relic Warder's 4 power Death Touch rather. And your only blocker is a Thrasios, who happens to be an 0-1 right now. So get ready to see a Thrasios jump block, because I think that's what's coming here.
Fenix went from being favored to do well to out of the game.
I mean, that's sort of a double-sided edge of Necrovotans, right? Is, put yourself with a low enough life total and suddenly you're locked out of drawing cards and somebody cast a Psych Rift or cast a Fire Covenant or cast a Toxic Deluge or cast a whatever, and now you're just like, well, I can't really do much.
And he's swinging 4 at Cobblepott. Or that's more than 4.
That's 4.
Because those get +2/+2, don't they?
4 apiece. It's 8.
4 apiece. Okay.
Yep. There's the thrust block. Phoenix at 4 here. Oh. Interaction.
Dark Ritual.
I'm assuming we're seeing activate Thrasios. Dark Red activate Thrasios.
Oh my gosh.
Play of all time. I love this play. This is a classic. Yes. The struggle bus activate Thrasios before he dies. I love this. Oh my god. Puts the mustard on it. Just, oh my god. This game just wants Phoenix to die, and it amuses me to no end.
Wow. So he's at 4 life.
And has a gift for him.
And he has to pay a pack trigger on his upkeep.
Certainly does.
And that basically taps him out.
Hey, he can still pay the 1 for the gift robe.
But he can't pay the 1 for the gift robe. He is just dead on board.
Never know. all you got to remember is that when you're in these positions, you just got to turn on the charm and start politicking your way. Doesn't always work, but sometimes it does.
I don't know. I've seen you do some master's level politicking to stay in games.
Listeners or watchers. Let them know about the secrets.
We've actually absolutely called attention to it during the Lab Maniacs game.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
So I think Phoenix passed, but I'm not entirely sure what's going on
here. You have to just like start casting the Git probe and try to get there. I mean, I'm assuming there's not much you can do here, and that there's not much in his hand to be able to get there. But oh my god, he's paying 2 to the neck.
2 with his. Oh my gosh!
There's no way to win it. Instant speed and end step in this list. So this means he's resigning himself to trying to live another turn cycle, and I'm just not a fan of that. I think you just like, regardless of what's in your hand at this point, you just have to fire off the Git probe and try to get there off of a single draw. Either that or just like cast the Git probe. Like you didn't even cast the Git probe to see the extra card that turn.
Right. To be fair, that does tap him. Or no, it doesn't. But he can't really cast anything that gets him out of it other than a creature, right?
Yeah, like there's just not much going on here.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so this is a rough place to be for Nagila. You were missing land drops all game and like had the 1 turn to draw off of Toski and like try to get the land drops, but it doesn't look like he got there. And that basically puts you directly out of the game. You don't have the double blue for an Oracle win. You're not going to be able to protect an Oracle win if you do go for it because you're on Deafening Silence. And you're most certainly not getting there with Nagila anymore. You have to like both get rid of the Elsh Norn, somehow make 3 more mana in the process, build back up warriors, and find the outlet, and find the win con. And you're going to need double blue for the win con, or double green for the win con now, because your Derevi's gone. So you just like need to have the Nature's Will, and it's just all so far away at this point.
Now, whatever happened to playing, what was the other enchantment that you used to see play?
Druid's Repository?
The Druid's Repository.
Sort of the worst of the 3. Nature's Will wins from a lot fewer warriors and also taps down your opponent's lands, which is sort of nice. But also it gives you like triple untaps if you can attack 3 players. And then Derevi is a lot more versatile, both more tutorable, same cost as Druid's Repository, harder to counter, and gives you like better tap downs. Or gives you tap downs at all, which you don't get with Druid's Repo.
Right.
You just don't really need the density considering you have so many tutors. Your forbidden tutors can find your outlets, and then also now that you're on Oracle Consult stuff, you just don't really need the win con density. Or you don't need that win con density. You just already have enough.
That makes sense.
Anyway, yeah.
So we're on Jacob's turn, I believe.
We're seeing the struggle in real time here of thinking through plays and not really having access to a lot of stuff.
My board dying to an Elesh Norn.
Fucking playing green decks versus Abzan.
Right.
It's either this or you get Linvala to pick one.
Neither is great.
I'd much rather be Linvala, but Elesh Norn is just something that people have access to when they have Survival of the Fittest and God's Cradle.
Let's see what's going on here. And they're just kind of discussing here, like, different things that they could potentially do.
Yeah, I mean, this is really a point in the game where table dynamics come into play because you really have to start conversing if you're anybody at this table that's not Cobblepott. You have to start thinking through, like, as a table, as a collective, how you're going to beat this Elesh Norn, because it's like Cobble has a very real clock in play. Their Survival of the Fittest is going to find a win within the next couple of turns, and you sort of need to put your heads together and figure out how you're going to stop that from happening so you don't just die, because it's very evident at this point that nobody's actually going to be able to win the game through the board. So you need to sort of look for ways to stem the bleeding and buy everybody a couple more turns in order to get there. And if you're not willing to, like, discuss with other people and, like, try to maybe feed them cards or, like, take help or whatever, you're just, like, 100% losing to Cobble here. It doesn't even matter if you have, like, interactive spells to, like, stop his threats as they come down, because he's just going to have more than, like, he's going to have more threats than you have interactive spells because of the survival. So you really need to, like, put into place protective measure or preventative measures here, like remove the survival, remove the Elesh Norn, and then hope that you can buy turns with that.
This is what's very interesting about competitive EDH, in my opinion, because you really see how much the multiplayer aspect comes in, because it's I feel like CEDH, especially when it gets grindy, turns into a real swingy affair.
Yeah, it's a lot of politicking, but also, like, no, it's not always politicking. Sometimes it's just, like, actually collaboration on how do we not lose right now. And, like, can we figure out ways to not lose? Can you, like, activate your Arbor Elf to give me mana so we can attempt not to lose here? Can you feed me cards actively? All right, this is a start.
Fire cover. Oh my goodness.
Start. It sort of sucks that Spleen doesn't have Nature's Claim ready to go here, because Nature's Claim would handle the other half of the threat, which is the Survival of the Fittest. But this is a great start. I mean, getting rid of the Elesh Norn unlocks everybody.
Wow,
and
he paid 14 life.
It's a bunch.
Goodness.
Funny enough, though,
he's sending 3 at Cobblepot, and Fenix is within killing range for everybody. So,
funnily enough, that Fire Covenant actually was made cheaper by the Elesh Norn, because as soon as the Elesh Norn goes away, it takes away its pump from the rest of the board, and then they die to SBAs. So,
I suppose that's true. Yeah, so you only have to hit those once.
Yep.
Interesting.
Only have to put 3 on the Vargoth, rather than having to put the full 5. As long as you're killing the Elesh at the same time. Yeah, we'll see what happens here, though. The God's Cradle is obviously less good now, but it's still a forest, and it rapidly becomes much better than a forest as you start tutoring and putting better stuff out. So yeah, I wouldn't actually be, like, super surprised to see an Eldritch Evolution on the Spleen and Relic order. The Carpet of Flowers isn't super great for Morgan here, and you have a lot of good options at 4 in that deck.
All right, and 2 at Fenix, and He is out of the game.
Goodbye, sweet Necropotence player.
So Cobblepott led off with that.
Yeah. So we definitely have options here. I'm assuming he also just has like other creatures that he has access to in hand as well, or at least other spells. So, yeah.
Right. Elvish
Definitely
Mystic. There we
stuff. Go. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Eldritch Evolution here, though. Vapor Elder's not bad. Linvala is also pretty great here. Definitely stops both Morgan and Nagila from really being able to get off the ground, both with Dorks and with some of the Wincons. Yeah, I mean, like, Ranger Captain Via's not a bad one. There's a lot of good options here.
There it is. There's the Eldritch Evolution on the Leonin Relic Order. Man, try to say that 5 times fast.
We also theoretically could see an Academy Rector here, although I wouldn't count on it. Not a whole lot of sack outlet stuff going on here.
I don't think he has that, although you could make an argument you might have been seeing that last turn.
Yeah.
Or this turn had the ELESH NORN stayed around and maybe gone for Living Plane somehow.
But classic Spice.
Because you could have...
Yeah, just nuked everybody's lands, Armageddon everybody.
Yeah.
In fact, permanently Armageddon everybody.
Well, yeah, because you survival away the Elvish Mystic, and you get Academy Rector, and then you sack it to the Eldritch Evolution.
Yep.
And I'm assuming that would have been what we would have saw this turn from Cobblepott.
In fact, you know what
Jacob not fired off that.
You know what you could have gotten off that Eldritch Evolution? An Archon of Valor's Reach.
Yeah.
Archon of Valor's Reach with Living Plane and ELESH NORN in play. Yeah, so we saw the seeing the Ranger Captain of Vios here. Not a bad one.
And he gets a Weathered Wayfarer off of that.
I'm sort of surprised at the Weathered Wayfarer tutor here, just because I think I actually probably would have liked to have seen like just a low value elf instead, so that you can go exchange it for a higher value creature, which I think is like one of the attractive parts of this line. Is it puts a creature back in your hand that you can survival away for a higher value thing. But this is also fine. It could also be that he thinks that at this point Weathered Wayfarer is just worse than a Dork, so he can also survival that away. So
he does have he has less lands than Spleenface, but more than Jacob, and so he really only gets one Weathered Wayfarer activation. But I guess it's a body, and we're at the point of the game where life totals are going to start becoming relevant.
It also makes
Entombing of Illis there.
Oh boy.
C-tier Gristlebrand might be coming onto the battlefield soon.
Might be. There's a very real chance that he gets silence and upkeep. Yeah,
that's true.
So we'll have to see about that. I do really hope that we see a Villas here, because Villas is hilarious, but I'm not sure how much we're actually going to. Yeah, I mean, it's like a very real chance that we just see a silence into like an Archon of Valor's Reach, naming like sorcery and just locking out the reanimation effect. Oh,
green
Birchlore Rangers.
Birchlore Rangers.
Was this a value entomb just to fire it off, get it out of the way?
Interesting.
Oh my god, it was.
And there comes Thrasios. And Food Chain.
Yep. So he's going to have to wait another turn to try to get there, because he does have an 8-mana commander now, but the Birchlore Rangers makes us a win if he can get there.
So let's see. So what does Birchlore Rangers do that wins the game here?
So it allows the elves off of Nadir that Nadir makes to tap for non-creature mana, which he can then feed into Thrasios.
Okay. That makes sense. That's real hot.
Incredibly hot. Actually, the only issue... I would have to do math on that, though, actually, because the Nadir might have issues getting off the ground here. Just because there's some math involved in how much mana it actually refunds every time.
Opposition agent is
back on the stack after being delayed.
Coming back on the stack. I forgot about
from
that.
The past. Oh boy.
Worldly Tutor in response.
Looking like this game is over. I would say.
Oh dear.
Especially since there seemed to be no interaction out of the untapped blue player. So, yeah. This is not looking good.
So we're an hour and 22 minutes into this game. 3 players left. Cobblepott is...
Oh, come on, Cobble.
Tutoring up an Archon.
Cobble. This, I gotta be honest, this definitely could have been a RAZAKETH and the game could have been over right now, I feel like.
It's very true.
But it looks like we're going for a rule instead.
So he's just going to keep dragging this game out.
That is just the stacks player MO. I don't know what to say. Why go for a win when you can just find more stacks pieces?
He's going to activate Weathered Wayfarer.
Assuming this is getting a black source so that you can hardcast RAZAKETH next turn.
Yeah. Probably Bayou?
Sure.
Ooh, Phyrexian Tower. That also is
works.
Good.
Yeah. So we're probably just locking this game out for one more turn with the Archon. Stops the food chain from coming anywhere close to winning. I don't think it was actually getting there anyway because I'm not sure the math checks out. But just, yeah, nobody's doing anything for the next turn cycle. And this should lock the game up. Quite honestly, though, this probably also could have just been a Grand Arbiter, rather. Anyway, we're seeing we're seeing a rule of law.
And swinging at Jacob for 4, taking his life total down to 4. So it looks like this game is firmly between Spleenface and Cobblepot.
In fact,
now.
I'd say it's firmly between Cobblepott and Cobblepott. It's Cobblepott's stacks brain versus Cobblepot's brain that gives him logical thoughts and tells him to end the game.
And there's the RAZAKETH. He can't do much with it at the moment because of the rule of law.
Definitely.
But he's got the pieces there to get there if he needs to.
Yep. Unfortunately, I don't think that Archon is going away.
And we're at Jacob's turn. He did lose his crypt roll. This is the first crypt roll he's lost since
Like turn 1.
all the way back at the beginning. And he's now down to 1 life. And what a crypt roll to lose.
It's just the law of building suspense, honestly.
So it is... Jacob is just kind of assessing the situation, and I think he's just kind of coming to the realization that I think he probably knew this a while ago, but I think the game is firmly over for him as he's casting a Chromox.
Pitching an Elvish Mystic. Can make green mana now, but there's nothing else to be done this turn because there's a rule of law in play. And I would not be surprised if we see, before anything else, a tapping of the Guy's Cradle and then a Ranger Captain being sacked. So you don't get got by like anything here. I don't think there's anything that Spleen can do about this.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, I don't know what he can really do to get anybody at the moment.
I mean, you can. There's a mana available, and there's at least one tutor available from the RAZAKETH, but you can only cast one spell, and I'm not sure you can do anything to interact with the Ranger Captain activation. In fact, I'd venture to say that there is nothing that you can do about the Ranger Captain activation, aside from like, I don't know, tutoring for a removal spell to get rid of one of the creatures in response to it.
Right.
Ooh.
Activating
He's
survival.
opening himself up.
No responses, it seems.
Not a huge fan of this. I don't like this.
What he's going after.
Well, okay, he hasn't discarded yet, so he hasn't actually activated survival. But
right.
I'm assuming his internal line of play here is discard RAZAKETH, get a Catamarector, cast Catamarector, sack Catamarector to the Phyrexian. Oh, never mind. He has a Protean Hulk.
Oh, Protean Hulk.
Still not a fan. There are issues. I feel
He's getting Protean Hulk. He's sacking it. He'll have 2 black mana.
There are issues here, right? If he goes for like an infinite death pile, Morgan has access to tutor like Noxious Rival.
Well, there's an opposition agent.
Oh, I totally forgot. Yeah, we're at the point in the game where there's enough.
And the Noxious is in his
stack pieces, and he already used Noxious. Yeah, okay, no, this is safe. Totally safe. Yeah, nothing to worry about here.
Skyclave. What is he trying to do with the Skyclave?
He's just getting more stacks pieces. The good old value Hulk.
All right, so he's getting Skyclave. Oof. What is he hitting with the Skyclave? Is he hitting... He can only hit...
4 CMC and less.
The Thrasios.
I mean, you can take the food chain, I guess, but yeah, this seems ill-advised / weird. I don't know.
Right. I think he misplayed because I think he thought he could hit the RAZAKETH with the Skyclave just there. Yeah, he's exiling the food chain.
That makes sense.
So let's see what goes down here.
I guess I forgot that Cobblepott doesn't really have a reasonable logical brain. It's just all stacks up there. Totally slipped my mind that is, yeah. Composition of Cobblepott's brain is apparently just 100% stacks.
So he takes Najeela firmly out of the game as he attacks Jacob with the Archon of Valor's Reach.
Honestly, I feel like the Skyclave might have been just like bad. It's definitely like I feel like you could have just gone for Linvala instead, right? And then like there's just no problems here.
Right.
I guess you might be worried about like potentially a Psych Rift, but even the Safekeeper doesn't care about the Psych Rift.
And he's attacking Cobblepott for 8 with that big RAZAKETH. So let's see. So Cobblepott is hellbent too. Opposition agent coming in.
Turn. Looking like a game.
It is looking like a game.
There is one flyer on Cobblepott's board. Can you block an 8/8 Flample for long enough to live? Or do you just die, I guess is the question here. Oh no.
Casting Timna. So we're kind of waiting to see what he does here. Attacks are hard.
I guess so. Especially when you have to contend with an, again, 8/8 Flample.
That's very true.
2-turn clock. That being said, there's not a whole lot of power or toughness for that matter on Morgan's board, so.
Right.
The one issue here is you can't swing with the op agent for the most part because it unlocks the tutors.
Right.
So if you block the Skyclave here, you get back a 3/3 blocker, which is what you care about.
Right.
Like, you care about power right now. And you can only kill 2 of your blockers maximum, either the Thrasiers or the 2/1/1s. I'm totally okay blocking this Skyclave, honestly. Because you can never, as Spleenface, you can never block with the op agent here because it just unlocks their survival and you just have to contend with more and more bodies coming down. But right now, like, yeah, I'm fine cashing in my 2/1/1s for a 3/3. Or Thrasiers for a 3/3. Like, God, yeah, give me that 6-mana blocker.
Well, Skyclave's a 2/2.
It gives back a... Oh, right. You don't even have to trade it back. You can just put the blockers in front of it. God.
Right.
That card's so much worse than I thought it was. Yeah, I mean...
He's passing the turn. We'll see what we get here. From Cobblepott. And he's going to block with his Archon.
Yep, expected. Still dead next turn, hilariously enough.
Right. He's floating some mana here, it appears.
I mean, you can just start activating Thrasios, yeah. Just start getting extra cards. If you get, like, removal is just the gold standard here. Yeah, Dispel's whatever. You don't care about Dispel. You care about hitting, like, Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy. But if you hit those, like, you're just, yeah, you're, like, locked in. Because Cobble's already dead next turn. He can't tutor. So he, like, has to find removal here. It looks like he just drew a City of Brass, which looks like he's dead. Yeah, I think you probably just had to swing all out with everything last turn.
Ooh, Kodama. So Kodama is on the battlefield, albeit quite late to the party.
Not doing much.
But it might help him start to maybe stabilize if he can get a flyer.
I mean, he needs a flyer with more than 2 toughness, so he needs, like, exactly Linvala, and that even buys him only 1 more turn.
He has to swing with everything here, right?
Yeah, like the only way you win this race is, like, if you rip Linvala this turn and you attack with everything.
Oh, the Kodama does have reach.
Oh, I guess it does. Which means that you're only taking 2 return from the RAZAKETH?
Well, 2 next turn.
Well, you can recast the Kodama.
It's true, yeah.
Guy's Cradle's pretty good like that.
So he's swinging 5.
Oh, and the Timber regains life. Right. So you need...
Blocking the Safekeeper with the opposition agent.
I feel like you gotta block the Skyclave too, right?
I think he just let it go through.
Oh, I guess Cobblepott is stabilized right now since he's... Oh my god, he's taking the draw. That's so greedy. So he'll be taking 1 a turn because of the Timber...
Well, he kind of has to dig himself out here, though, and the only way you're doing that is with card draw. And he's hellbent.
So, I mean, if Spleen finds removal at any point, Cobble's dead.
So let's see what we get here from Cobblepott.
Well, I guess actually at this point, if either player finds any amount of, like, any removal...
right.
Actually, except Morgan has the Dispel.
Eidolon of Rhetoric. Kodama Trigger.
Okay, puts in a land.
Gets a land. All right, so did not find a Linvala or anything like that, and that's going to be his turn. End step, he looks like he's going to be activating Thrasios.
You always have to hold up the Dispel from now on because of the removal potential. But yeah, if you find Abrupt Decay or Assassin's Trophy, I guess not Assassin's Trophy.
Mental Misstep.
Good enough. You need, oh god, I guess you need a bounce spell, but it can't be a Chain of Vapor because that bounces back. Yeah,
then it bounces your RAZAKETH.
So you need exactly like Assassin's Trophy. Oh, Drown in the Lock might do it too. At this point in the game,
Drown in the Lock might do it too.
That actually might be it.
So let's see what we're getting here.
I guess.
Is this okay? He's casting in a deer.
8 mana. It's a lot of mana.
All right. And swinging with the RAZAKETH. Block with Kodama.
Ew. Passing
the turn. Cobbles at 5. Man, what a slugfest of a game.
So Nadir's not huge right now. It's only going to get up to a 4/4 if you block with the token.
And there is the wow, I almost said the Cobblepot. There's the Kodama.
So at this point, it's hard to make headway as Cobble again because you're spending every turn casting your Kodama, which is going to be your only spell under the rule flaws. So you can't really break parity because you have to recast it every turn just to stay alive. So you can only cast spells realistically on Spleen's turn, but Spleen is like just has interaction up unless he is going to keep casting creatures. He's going to tap out for an activation.
And we're going to activating here.
Actually, this makes sense. Cobble has already cast a spell for turn, so we can fully tap out for this. Yeah.
There we go.
I guess Reanimate could also do it here from Morgan. It's a bit narrow, but one of the enchantments gets back Villas, which helps make headway. Yeah.
And that is a land.
Play. Gilded Drake would also do it, I guess, which means that by extension, the creature tutors do it. There's actually a fair amount here to hit.
But there's 2 opposition agents still out there.
No creature tutors, no tutors. But Gilded Drake is a raw hit, also not bad. I guess Eternal Witness gives you options as well. For Cobble, again, really for both players, it's really any removal spell.
All right, and he's bottoming that one. Let's see what the top...
Drown in the Lock. That should do it.
I think that's game.
So Cobble needs to have removal in hand right now. Because they can both only cast 1 spell for turn, so if Spleen attempts to remove the Kodama, Cobble will not be able to, or he will not be able to protect or counter Cobble's removal spell. So if Cobble has the swords, if Cobble has an Assassin's Trophy, he's still alive here, but he's going to need to have it right now.
There it is. There's the Drown in the Lock. Let's see what Cobblepott has. He only has one card in hand.
Oh,
and he gets
gone.
It. And I think that's game.
Could be. There's still chance for removal, but I think this is it.
Nope. There it is. And Spleenface pulls it out, and just there, it looks like if you heard there at the end from Cobblepott is he chose that pile thinking that Skyclave could hit the RAZAKETH.
Oh no!
And so certainly a misplay there from Cobblepott, it seems. But overall, pretty good game, very interesting game. So what's your takeaway from this one?
Play win cons in your stacks. Sorry, Cobble. Sorry, buddy. But yeah, I mean that is just you know what? I think the main takeaway actually from that game is that RAZAKETH is win con. Who knew?
Yeah, there you go. Well, that about wraps things up here for us today with the gameplay series. Just a quick reminder for all of you. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can at SculptyBoys, or you can find a direct link in our link tree in the description below. Want to also give extra thanks to all of our patrons who help keep the lights on around here. If you too would like to become a patron, you can head on over to the patreon.com/mindsculptors, or check out the link in the description below. Also, make sure to, if you're buying cards through TCG Player, use our affiliate link that's also in the description. That way you can help us out. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Sick, for joining me here and seeing your teammate take down another win.
I mean, as much as I hate to see him take down wins, I guess I'll begrudgingly accept it.
Sometimes it happens. Well, from all of us here at the Mind Sculptors, I'm Callahan, and we'll see you next time.